All right, there is, of course, another high-profile political case. This one's civil, but it involves former President Trump. The state of New York is accusing the former president, his eldest sons, and his company of committing fraud by inflating the declared values of his properties and then taking out bank loans on them. Trump attended the first day of the trial, and at least walking into the courtroom, he did not hold back before the cameras.
This is a continuation of the single greatest witch hunt of all time. We have a rogue judge who rules that properties are worth a tiny fraction, 1/100th, a tiny fraction of what they actually are. We have a racist attorney general who's a horror show.
Joining us now is Hogan Gidley. Of course, he was a former deputy White House press secretary in the Trump White House. Also joining us to break down the legal side of this, NewsNation legal contributor Jesse Weber. Hello to you both. Hogan, let's start with you. Civil case, not criminal. Donald Trump in the courtroom today, as we saw. He might be back tomorrow. You know him. What's the thinking there?
Yeah, look, I think he obviously feels as though this government has been weaponized against him in many ways. This justice system continues to go after him, attack his friends, his family, his staff, his lawyers, and now his businesses too. I mean, the notion that Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million is absolutely ridiculous. I've been to Palm Beach many times. I work for Donald Trump. I've been to Mar-a-Lago many times. There are vacant lots in Palm Beach that are worth $50 million. So when you have a sprawling landscape like Mar-a-Lago, give me a break. Also, why wouldn't the bank bring something like this against Donald Trump? I mean, if he committed fraud, wouldn't the bank be upset about it? But no, he paid off his loans. He did so with interest. Also, from the political aspect of this, when Donald Trump walked in, sat down, the camera comes in. The judge allowed that camera at the beginning of the hearing. The judge is sitting there on the bench, looks up, does a double take, then looks at the camera, takes off his glasses, smiles, and then looks at the crowd and shrugs like the intro to some bad 80s sitcom. I mean, talk about the Democrats just living the dream, weaponizing the justice system against somebody. I wish the judge would take this a little more seriously, and if he took a look at it, he'd realize on its face, this is a witch hunt, and it's absolutely insane.
Jesse, stand by. I'm going to get to the legal side on you. But, Mark, you used to work in the Trump White House as well. What, again, the thinking of Donald Trump being there today is, in your view?
Court of public opinion. He knows, obviously, the lawyers will handle the court of law, but he will handle the court of public opinion. So he's able to come out and give his narrative on it, much like Hogan just said. You know, the valuation of Mar-a-Lago is a joke. Most people get that. I also think most people understand that, like, when you're buying your own house, you know, you look at the bottom line. When you get your property tax assessment, you're like, this is way too high. My house is not worth that much. When you go to sell it, you always think it's worth way more than what, you know, what it is. So people understand this. They see this going on. And why is it Donald Trump that's always the one that's getting this when, you know, so many other commercial real estate developers? I worked for a commercial real estate developer. You always inflate the price for the bank and you deflate it for taxes. It's standard business.
Jesse, there were two very different tones for Donald Trump. One walking in, which you heard, which was not thrilled, somewhere between not thrilled and hostile. But coming out, it was a much softer tone. What happened inside the courtroom this afternoon? Do we know yet?
That's a great question. I mean, I was on the air with Connell as we were learning this, and if that is true, I know we're still confirming it, but if it is true that all of these transactions before 2014 are not coming in or not part of this case, that is a significant win for Donald Trump. Because, again, this case right now is there's about 6 remaining claims, whether or not Donald Trump intended to defraud, whether or not he engaged in insurance fraud or falsifying documents. And those years, that period of time, is so significant for this case. I have to say it's curious if that's true, because last week in the judge's rulings, those years were part of his decision. So I don't understand why he would have decided today to not include those transactions, but ruled on them last week. That's the part that's a little curious.
Interesting. Hogan, Donald Trump might be essentially forced, and Jesse, correct me if I'm wrong, but forced to testify, right? Like, the other side can call up whoever they want, and that would be Donald Trump. If Donald Trump, Hogan, has to go up on the witness stand here, how do you see that shaking out, as Mark said, in the court of public opinion? I know it's not on camera, but that would be something.
No, it would be, and Mark is right. No one understands these spectacles and how to use them and manipulate them for the good better than Donald Trump. You saw that fully on display today. Not just what he said, not just how he approaches the camera physically, but his countenance when he sits down, the way his face rests. You saw that with the mugshot, for instance. He knows what to do and how to do it. And quite frankly, he's got some legitimate beef here, a lot, if you're really understanding the situation, with lawsuits and indictments all over the place. Fani Willis, Letitia James, all these people kind of ran on the fact that they would go after Donald Trump. So it's no surprise they actually tried to do something here to get him caught on a civil case. They found nothing criminal, of course. Now they're trying this civil route. The whole thing smacks of politics, and I think the majority of the American people understand that.
Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.